In today's video, we're comparing the 2022 Toyota Tundra with the 2022 Ford F-150 Lightning. Both brand new trucks for 2022, and on the surface, they seem very similar to one another. They're both full-size trucks, crew cab short beds. They've got a lot of the same overall dimensions, capabilities, and yet at the same time, two very different trucks, with the Lightning being all electric and the Tundra being a much more traditional gas-powered vehicle. We'll start off with a quick walk around of the two trucks, covering the Tundra first, which definitely has the more polarizing styling of the two models. It's been met with very mixed reviews since it was introduced, and definitely kind of a love it or hate it type of look. It's got a very bold, aggressive appearance with this massive grille, the unique headlight design, and the dramatic fenders, front and rear. Personally, I don't really love the look of the new Tundra in stock configuration, but with modifications, I think it's a really good looking truck. This specific Tundra has a 2-inch lift in the front, 1 inch in the rear, and it's sitting on a set of 35-inch tires. It's also seen a few other minor modifications to some of the body parts that are now body colored black, as opposed to the chrome that you're gonna see in standard configuration. Unique tailgate here, as well as the tail lights, which have sequential blinkers. This is also the TRD off-road model. And with it, you get a nice looking set of 20-inch wheels. And then we've got the Lightning, which really isn't all that polarizing. Ford played it pretty safe with this design. It's a pretty conservative look and very similar to the F-150s that we've been seeing since about 2004. Not a lot has changed on the F-150 since then. They've made small revisions, and then with the Lightning, it does see a few changes as well. We of course get our charging port here, which you're not going to see on the Tundra. This is the Lariat model, which comes pretty heavily loaded with features and has these 20-inch wheels. I really like the taillight design on the Lightning, which is also unique from that standard F-150 model. You get this strip that cuts across the back, and then the tail light design is similar to your standard F-150 model, but again, it has a much more modern appearance to it. Another thing that's kind of unique about the tailgate on this truck is that it's electronic to drop down as well as to go back up. We've got LED lights in the bed, as does the Tundra as an additional feature. And then coming around to this side, this actually is a fake charging port here. So it's just got the one on the driver's side. Good looking truck. Again, they play it pretty safe. In a way, maybe a little bit dull or boring because it hasn't changed that much from the standard F-150 model that we've seen for many years. Whereas the Tundra is definitely very different from any Tundras of the past. Looking inside, you'll see that the Lightning's got a very nice interior design with a massive screen, 15.3 inches, and it controls pretty much all of the vehicle functions. We also get leather seating surfaces, all your standard power upgrades. This Lariat model's got the Bang & Olufsen premium audio system. We've got a button here to open the front as well as the tailgate, and we've got a number of our lighting controls, electronic parking brake here, and then electronic controls of our pedals right there. A number of controls on the steering wheel, smart key with push button start. We power that up, give you a quick look at this screen here. Which is a really nice interface. I've been really impressed with this system. It's definitely superior to what you get in the Tundra in terms of functionality. The one thing I would say I maybe don't love about the system though is that there's a little bit too much that goes through this computer. All of the climate control, your heated seats, heated steering wheel, ventilated seats, all of that is through here. It's all easy to use when you're not driving. Sometimes can feel a little bit hard to do while you're driving. So for example, if you click there, then you've got to drag this down or up depending on if you want it heated or ventilated. Again, very easy to do when you're stopped. Sometimes when you're driving, that can feel a little bit complicated. Ventilated seats are awesome in the Lightning, definitely superior to the Tundra. And then likewise, the heated steering wheel is a lot warmer than what you get in the Tundra. You'll see their instrument cluster is digital, so it's got a pretty modern look to it. Higher end trim levels of the Tundra also have that, whereas my model does not. And then, yeah, we've got all of our audio controls, trip information, vehicle information. You can click up here to go to some of our various settings. We've got our camera system here with the 360 camera, number of additional camera views available here. There's certain things I like about this system more on the F-150 Lightning than on the Tundra, and in some cases I like the way that the Tundra works a little bit more as well. We do get Apple CarPlay on the Lightning as well as the Tundra, and then obviously this is much bigger screen. One thing that I like is that you get the Apple CarPlay here, but then you can also easily go back to, you know, your FM radio if you want to. You can go to vehicle trip information, then obviously the climate control is kind of separate down there at the bottom. So yeah, it's a good system here. We've got wireless charging for your cell phone down below there. This is kind of a unique feature. We can drop down this gear shifter here, console opens up, and then we can also open it this way, and you've got kind of a work surface here. You can put a laptop or, you know, other things on, so kind of handy. And then you can bring that back up. A couple more cup holders here, sunglass storage, reading lights, programmable for your garage door openers or gates. And then if we open up the rear door, very spacious back here. The floor is flat because it's an electric vehicle, no hump for the drivetrain. We've got a couple of vents here for the rear passengers, number of outlets as well, USB, USB-C, power outlet. So a lot of connectivity for devices. We can pull our seat bottom up. We've got a little bit of storage space here, and then very spacious here again with that floor being flat. And likewise, we can also lift up that seat. Looking inside the Tundra, you'll see that it's got a really nice interior design as well. I actually like it more than the Lightning. I think it's got a little more personality, and I prefer some of the styling details. We also get a massive screen here in the middle, although not as big as on the Lightning. Up top, we've got the panoramic sunroof, which gives the truck a cool vibe. I wish the Lightning had that. It is available with it, I just don't have it on my truck. And then we have the roll down window in the back. I also really like the seats on this limited Tundra with the pattern. I think it gives it some cool character. As far as features, the two trucks are very similarly equipped in terms of features. I mentioned that the Lightning has a Bang & Olufsen premium audio system. This has a JBL audio system, although probably not as good as the Bang & Olufsen. We also get an analog instrument cluster here as opposed to the digital on the Lightning. I like the steering wheel on the Tundra a little more than the Lightning. Lightning does seem to be a little higher quality with the leather wrap, and the heated element works a lot more than on the Tundra, but I like the perforated wrap that we get on this lower section, and I like the little bulge that we get on either side. Just kind of gives it a sporty feel. Likewise, with the TRD off-road package, we get the red button here, the sport shifter, and then the pedals down below. So just those little details that give it kind of that sporty feel. Another thing that I'll say is that this center screen is not as functional on the Tundra as it is on the Lightning. If you're using CarPlay, it's, you know, equivalent. But when we go to the Toyota specific functions, for example, audio, if we turn this on, it just brings up our radio stations here on the right and then our options on the left. It's not very efficient use of this large screen, whereas on the Lightning, you get a lot of different pieces of information on that screen, and you're able to have a lot of that available all at the same time, whereas on the Tundra, you don't really get that. So it's a really cool looking feature, but there's not a lot of functionality with that. I also like on the Tundra how the buttons here for the climate control system are separated from this screen and presented in a really nice, clean layout. So that's kind of a look at the front of the Tundra. I'll give you a quick look at the back as well. If you want to know more, you can look at one of my review videos to really get the full rundown on the interior, but just kind of wanted to give you a high level look at the two trucks. You'll see back here again, plenty of space. The floor is raised here in the middle, unlike the Lightning, which is flat. We do get some more of those power outlets here, pretty similar to what you get on the Lightning. And then these seats, when you raise them up, it's more of a storage compartment as opposed to the Lightning, which again is completely flat on the bottom. So advantages to each. I, in some ways, like this configuration more because I can store things down here and they're going to stay put in this compartment. But I could also see the advantage with the Lightning of being able to flip that up and get something really large shoved into the back seat here. The Tundra is offered with two different powertrain options, both 3.4-liter twin-turbo 6-cylinders and either a standard gas engine or with a hybrid component. The standard gas models in the SR trim see 348 horsepower and 405 pound-feet of torque, and then on the SR5 and up models, like this that have the standard engine, you're going to see 389 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. On hybrid models, that increases to 437 horsepower and 583 pound-feet of torque. The 0 to 60 time with the Tundra is going to range from about 6 to 7 seconds. Max tow capacity is 12,000 pounds. Max payload is 1,940 pounds. And then fuel economy is going to vary a little bit depending on whether you've got rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. My truck is a four-wheel drive and it's rated at 17 miles per gallon in the city and 22 miles per gallon on the highway. A similar hybrid model is going to be sitting at 19 in the city and 22 miles per gallon on the highway. So only a 2 mile per gallon increase for city driving. Instead, they focus the hybrid powertrain to increase that horsepower and torque more so than on the fuel efficiency. Unfortunately, real-world mile per gallon is quite a bit lower on both the standard engine and the hybrid models. On my truck, I average about 16 miles per gallon. Granted, I've got the larger 35-inch tires on this truck, but even prior to that, the best that I ever saw was probably about 19 miles per gallon. As you can see, things look very different under the hood of the Lightning because it's an all-electric truck and there's no need for an engine. Instead, you get additional cargo space up here, which is actually quite handy. And then there's a battery pack that runs under the bottom of the vehicle and a motor at the front and the rear axle. Now the Lightning's available with two different battery pack options, either a 98 or 131 kilowatt hour pack. This is the standard range model, which has the 98 kilowatt hour pack, offers 452 horsepower and a very impressive 775 pound-feet of torque. The extended range model sees horsepower increase to 580 and offers the same 775 pound-feet of torque. The standard range model has an electric range of 230 miles, and the extended range model sees that increase to 320 miles. Payload capacity is 2,000 pounds on this model, 1,800 pounds on the extended range model. Tow capacity is 7,700 pounds on this and 10,000 pounds on the extended range model. 0 to 60 time is going to be about 4 to 5 seconds between the two different models. So very impressive numbers on the Lightning. In most categories, it beats out the Tundra. The Tundra does have an advantage when it comes to tow capacity, and then obviously because it's a gasoline vehicle, it's also going to have essentially unlimited range. Looking at the Tundra and the Lightning in a parking lot, they're going to seem to be very similar full-size pickups, but when it comes to driving them, they are completely different. The Tundra is much more of your traditional truck. It's got the engine in the front, it's light in the back, it's got a high center of gravity, and it just drives and handles a lot more like a truck as you would expect it to. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I actually, in some ways, like the fact that it feels a little bit more like a truck. It's got a little bit more of a rougher ride, a stiffer suspension. Part of that due to the lift kit and the 35-inch tires that I'm running on mine. But even prior to making those modifications, it drove a lot more like a truck than the Lightning, which is much more smooth, much more quiet, and in a lot of ways just feels a lot more like a luxury vehicle. The other thing that is very different between the two is that the Lightning is completely silent when you're accelerating, which is a little bit weird for a full-size truck, not something that you're used to. Generally, you've got a V8 under the hood, even, you know, if it's a 6-cylinder, it's going to be making some noise. The Tundra, when we accelerate, is quite loud. Sounds pretty good, right? Like there's a V8 under the hood, except there's not. That's kind of the funny thing, is that on Tundras like mine that are equipped with the premium JBL audio system, it's got artificial audio coming through the speaker system to make it sound like it's got a V8. So a little bit silly, but I actually kind of like it. I feel like it gives the truck some personality and just makes it feel like you're driving a truck. Whereas again, the Lightning is just completely silent, which is a little bit weird. Again, advantages and disadvantages to each. The other thing that I just kind of prefer about the Tundra is the interior. It's more to my liking. I like the look and layout. I like some of the styling cues, and I just feel like it's a really nice cabin. While I prefer the interior on the Tundra, there's probably many others out there that would actually prefer the interior on the Lightning, and that's fair. It's hard to really find any fault between the two. The Lightning's got a very simple layout, it's very functional, and the reality is a lot of the systems work better in the Lightning than they do in the Tundra. The heated and ventilated seats, the heated steering wheel are much more powerful. The HVAC system heats up and cools down the vehicle a lot more quickly. This infotainment system is more user-friendly, it's more intuitive, and it offers a lot more information than what you get in the Tundra. And the reality is that these are not the things that separate the Lightning and the Tundra. What separates them is the powertrain, which is very different and results in a very different driving experience. The Tundra, again, is much more truck-like. It's got more of that old school feel. It's going to be very familiar in terms of driving a truck, whereas the Lightning is kind of a whole new game. It's a mix of a pickup, a luxury vehicle, and a sports car. It's incredibly smooth and quiet and comfortable. It's got that battery pack that is centered down low, giving it a really low center of gravity and that 50-50 weight distribution. And so it's got great handling characteristics in dry conditions as well as in snow and ice. And it's also got that standard all-wheel drive system, whereas the Tundra is going to be rear-wheel drive with the option of four-wheel drive. Now, the advantage of that is a day like today where the roads are dry. In the Tundra, you're going to have the four-wheel drive system inactive. It's going to be driving in rear-wheel drive. And anytime you hit a little patch of ice, it might slide a little bit, accelerating from a stop. There's cinders on the road right now. The Tundra might fishtail a little bit. Whereas the Lightning, it's got that all-wheel drive system and that 50-50 weight distribution. So it's not light in the back and heavy in the front like your typical truck. It's even from front to back. And it's got that all-wheel drive system that is always active and transferring power as needed. And so you're going to see very little wheel spin in the Tundra unless you're accelerating really hard, because it's got 775 pound-feet of torque. So the overall handling characteristics with the Lightning are far superior to the Tundra in dry conditions, going around hairpin turns, but also for driving in snow and ice. The Lightning is so much better than the Tundra when it comes to that overall handling. Again, because of the weight distribution, but then also the all-wheel drive system. So handling's a big difference. The fact that it's just so quiet and smooth and comfortable, whereas the Tundra, it's comfortable, but it drives like a truck. It's just, your typical truck feel, and obviously much louder, especially with the piped-in artificial audio. And then, of course, the other thing that really separates the Lightning is when I hit the accelerator, it's so quick. That's 60 miles an hour. We were going about 30 miles an hour. And just like that, you're going so fast. And what's crazy is it doesn't matter how fast you're going. If you're stopped, it throws you back in the seat. If you're going 30, it throws you back in the seat. If you're going 60 and you hit the accelerator, it throws you back in the seat. It is just so quick. And then, of course, the other thing that's great about that is it's very powerful, and yet it's also much less expensive to operate than the Tundra when it comes down to it. You're not going to be paying for oil changes. You're not buying gas. Electricity is a lot cheaper to buy in terms of, what I've seen in terms of an impact to my power bill with this truck. I'd say in a month, increase of maybe $40 a month with the Lightning. And that's, versus the trade-off with the Tundra, driving about the same amount, I'd probably be spending, $300 or $400 in gas. And so there's definitely a big difference there. And the other thing that's been really cool with the Lightning is that there are a lot of free charging stations around. So I can actually, go park somewhere, plug it in, and when I get back, I've got 10% charge, over the last 45 minutes or so at a stage 2 charger. So that's definitely nice. I will say that the range anxiety is a problem with the Lightning, and the technology definitely has a lot of room for improvement there, especially with this being the standard range model. If I was going on a long road trip, I would probably be pretty reluctant to take this just yet. At a fast charger, it is supposed to charge from about 15 to 80% in 45 minutes. So, you could drive a couple 100 miles, stop and grab lunch, plug in for 45 minutes, and keep driving, but it still takes a lot more planning in advance that you don't have to do with the Tundra. So that's definitely a disadvantage, but if you're a two-car family like us, there's no reason that you can't have one electric vehicle that you use primarily, in your local vicinity, and have a gasoline vehicle that you can use for those longer trips. And then obviously as the technology improves and the charging infrastructure improves, it's going to make driving an electric vehicle over those long distances a lot more practical. So that's a side-by-side look at the Tundra and the Lightning, both great trucks that have a lot to offer, but also extremely different from one another. And I've received many questions since getting the Lightning as to which of the two trucks I like more. And honestly, it's a really hard question to answer because, again, they're both great trucks. They just offer different advantages and disadvantages depending on what you're looking for. As far as the Tundra goes, I like the styling a little bit more, both inside and out. I think part of that is because I'm a little bit more of a Toyota guy than a Ford guy, so it's just a bit more up my alley. There's various cues and features that are just more to my liking than the Lightning. I feel like the Lightning's a little bit dull, whereas this is a little bit exciting. I also feel like the Tundra's got a little bit more personality, due largely to the artificial audio, which is silly, but it's just, something that makes it kind of fun to drive. It also just feels a little bit more like a truck, which I kind of prefer. And then I'd also say that the Tundra has the edge when it comes to off-road capability, particularly when you want to get out into really remote areas where range could be an issue with the Lightning. Now the Lightning, on the other hand, is a lot quicker, and that's really fun. It has great handling, and it's just a lot more powerful than the Tundra when you're driving it. So I do like that about it. It's also got superior handling for driving in snow and ice. And so from that standpoint, definitely a huge advantage. And that all-wheel drive system also carries over to non-winter conditions as well, giving it that better handling. It's a lot more smooth to drive. And then of course, I like the fact that it saves me a lot on fueling costs. If you ask my kids and my wife, they would tell you that they strongly prefer the Lightning. They don't want me to sell it. If you ask me, I lean toward preferring the Tundra by a slight margin. So that's my summary of the two trucks. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comment section below. For more videos of both the Tundra and the Lightning, be sure to subscribe. And in the meantime, thanks for watching.